Hello and welcome. I am going to be in true confession time with you right now, which is this. It is very infrequently that I get all gussied up. And so I thought I would take advantage because I didn't have a guest on my authentic as fuck television program this particular month. I thought I would take advantage of, hey, I did my hair, I did my makeup, I have reasonably okay clothes on today. And so why not come on and talk a little bit about what is authentic AF TV? So I have always been on this journey to be more authentic in life. I've done a lot of work on myself as a psychotherapist. Like I work with other people to be more authentic and to reduce anxiety, to reduce depression, and all those kinds of things, which can be reduced by being more authentic in life. And when I ran across this model that Kenneth Play and Dr. Zana had created for the work that Kenneth Play is doing, um, and he gave me permission when I saw him at retreat in Easton Mountain. But when I ran across this, it was like a model that was like, oh, blowing my mind. This makes so much sense for me. And I've had a couple guests on already talking about what makes them feel most authentic. And one of my guests talked about shame and how that's highly linked to authenticity. Another guest really talked about dreams and like how living in doing hard things makes you feel authentic. And so for me, this model is so valuable that I share it all the time with women that I work with, and especially when I'm coaching with women, we are always looking at this model. It's how our desires line up with our values and line up with then our behaviors. And so what's interesting about this model is our desires can shift and change through time. What I desire now as a 51-year-old woman is totally different than what I desired as a 25-year-old woman. At 25, I was all about like making babies. Like the biological drive that happens to a woman at the age of 25 is like baby making, baby making, baby making sometimes for us that choose to have children, right? Um, that's nowhere where I am now. Like I have absolutely no drive or desire to like have that. But I do have a desire and drive to have a really yummy, sex life, to have a really like vibrant partnership with somebody. Like that's really where my desires is now. That's where they are like now. Some of them. I have lots of desires, but that's some of them. And then there's this whole piece around values, which values are like guiding principles. They're like the lighthouse in the storm, that whenever you feel lost, you can always look back on your values and go, but what do I value most in my life? What are my guiding core like principles that I have? An example of values for me is I value family very much, right? Um, that will never go away. I will always value family. The shape that my family takes is very different. At 51, being divorced, it's no longer like Christmas with all the kids. What I value most are like these simple experiences, like going to the overture, to a show and dinner with my son, to even value, like, I don't like to carry heavy furniture, but I value like helping my daughter move this weekend, right? So it takes a different shape. That family value is still being played out, but it's taking a very different shape as I move through different ages and stages in my life. And that's okay. Like that's okay. Um, I value freedom. And what that looks like now as a 51-year-old divorce, not in a committed, like relationship where I have a ring on my finger, that kind of feeling. Freedom plays out very differently. In fact, I can never even imagine that I'd have another ring on my finger. I don't know. But the value of freedom can get played out very differently at various stages in our lives, and that value though of freedom is probably never going to leave. In fact, how it gets played out the biggest way for me is I own two of my own businesses. I can't imagine ever working for somebody else again. And so I'll do anything and everything to like get my own healthcare insurance and all these other things, because my value of freedom is super, super important. The freedom of movement, that if I want to go to New York and visit my partner next week. I can give myself the day off and go, that there's nothing like somebody else is telling me that I have to do, that I can set my own schedule, that I can be my own boss. Like those are the ways that freedom can get played out for me right now in my life. But freedom has been, since I was little on, a super, super powerful force in my life of like what I wanted. And then there's this whole piece around behaviors, that when our behaviors match our values and desires, that's truly living authentically as fuck. And so when our behaviors don't line up with our desires, like we desire something, but our values are kind of getting in the way of that. And so then we repress, and we feel a repression of like what we desire, or a stuffing down, right? When we act in ways that are aligned with our desires, but maybe not necessarily our values. A person I work with, like a woman that I work with, wants, exciting sex and hotness in her life, and her partner's not giving her that, and she has an affair. Like that leads to a lot of feelings of shame, right? Because I'm acting outside of my values around my family, but I'm acting on my desires, and so things aren't lining up for me. And so we have to constantly, I think, be looking at this dance around, what do I value? What do I desire? Do they line up? Do I need to change and shift my values? Do I need to change something in my life, like leaving my marriage in order to have that partnership that I'm really seeking, right? For that woman that I was talking about, that I was working with. We line all of them up, and we make the changes in our life, or we make the changes in how we are believing about our values, or we take a look at our desires and wonder, like, get a little curious with them and wonder, why do we desire what we desire? Is there another way I can get that met? Is there a way that desire can get played out in my life? The key to this whole piece is that when we line the three things up, we're in our sweet spot, and we're living life authentic as fuck. So I just wanted to leave you with that this month, as we move into the next month, of how do you want to live more authentically? And I invite you to find me at www.hotpinkyou.com. I have a great 5-day free challenge on there to get pleasure back into your life. And I also come out with a newsletter every Friday that has 5 like hot new tips and things that I'm like pondering, thinking about, eating, seeing, doing. And I like to share those things with you, including my last newsletter had this beautiful heart necklace and a really cute story around what this heart necklace means to me. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you in the next episode of Authentic as Fuck.